Well, the defender of Islam and the field mouse has struck again. But I'm afraid, King Charles in the palace, you thought you slipped this change into the sovereign grant document and we wouldn't notice. But I miss nothing. And insiders, I am giving you the story that Palace Confidential won't. We are getting into the sneaky, dirty little PR move that the palace have pulled. And I'm afraid to say it affects every single one of us, and not in a good way. Welcome back. So the Sovereign Grant Report, okay, that was published on the 27th of June. Buckingham Palace thought they were being clever where they quietly removed Defender of the Faith from the King's official description, replacing it with, get ready, because no one asked me about this, I don't know if anyone asked your permission or if King Charles has spoken to God, protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. Hello, we're a constitutionally Christian country, and at this point, this is psychological torture that the palace and the king are unleashing, in my professional opinion. We are being gaslit. This is absolutely shocking. I'm going to tell you about this very dangerous move the king and the palace have pulled, but I just want to quickly share a clip with you from Regent Street at the weekend, because this was going on in a constitutionally Christian country, and King Charles has been one of the biggest advocates for Islam, which is a political ideology. King Charles has promoted this heavily since he was 27 years old, and I'm afraid, King Charles, you are stealing away our children and grandchildren's future. They deserve to grow up safely in a constitutionally Christian country. Take a look at this. I don't know about you. Personally, I'm not okay with that. That doesn't look like assimilating to me. I find it incredibly daunting, particularly as I'm going to film in an Islamic area within the UK next week, and I've been told it is not safe to do so. But how can it not be safe to film in an area in the UK, which is a constitutionally Christian country? But this is the story the mainstream media won't give you. And the king has pulled a very, very dangerous move. This possibly will change the course of our lives in the UK. Now, news has broken that he has quietly removed Defender of the Faith from his official description, replacing it with protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. He's broken his oath. This, and make no mistake about it, this is a shady PR move to fit the globalist agenda. He has sold us out to another ideology. And today we are getting straight into these new confirmed reports. They originally ran in the Telegraph and have since been picked up nationwide. The backlash and what it means for the future of the monarchy will also be on our agenda today. He has betrayed us. King Charles has failed the church. He's lied under oath. He's failed the people, and he has two jobs. One, defend the faith. Two, stability. Well, I would argue he's not doing either one. In fact, as we find ourselves within what many feel is an Islamic takeover in the UK, he is king of another ideology. He is not our king. I fail to see how anyone can truly think King Charles is protecting the Christian faith. And even if you aren't religious, you might be watching this and think, I'm agnostic or I'm atheist. This has real implications for all of us. Sharia law is already all around the UK. We have Sharia courts, We are being fed halal meat without it being advertised. This is a king that called for more Muslim teachers. This is a king that learned Arabic. This is a king that is patron for the Islamic Centre. And this is a king that has not once stood up for British children. And then he just quietly slips this change in, thinking no one would notice. Now, I will be joined by Bishop Kai later in this episode, because not only is he shocked regarding this development, but he also has genuine concerns for all of us regarding how a constitutionally Christian country being eroded proves to be a real danger. Now, let's not forget, Chucky tried to pull this move before changing the wording. He tried it, but the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, forbid him. But it's been replaced this time. His Majesty protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. I can only imagine the late Queen is absolutely incandescent. The late Queen, she was steadfast in her commitment to protecting the people, to protecting the constitutionally Christian country. But we see Charles sell us out at any opportunity. Qatari money, Saudi money, wants to wish everyone a happy Eid, or he wants to go down to the Islamic Centre. This is a man that cannot even do the basic fundamental requirements for his role as defender of the faith. So 500 years of constitutional history gone, rewritten, in a footnote in this document. Do they think that little of us, the church and our Christian constitution, that they think they can just hide it in a document? Didn't think to consult any of us, didn't think to do a press release or perhaps a televised TV piece. But this is a king, as I have said. He's allergic to the word Christianity. I did an interview with Andrew Gold, Heretics, and when I said I have been told off camera that some people believe the king is a Muslim, people said, oh, well, when I say people, I mean just a bitter other blogger. Oh yeah, well, she can't say who it is, as if we believe her. The reason I can't say is because of how high up this person is. But everything I've said is absolutely true. We only have to look at every twist and turn. The king is laughing at us. He's just mocking this religion. And look, my husband's not even religious. He's furious about it. How does this impact our daughters when they will go to school? How does this impact our safety? There is a lot of protection within our constitutionally Christian country, but we all know we're in the middle of an Islamic takeover. I've got the bish here, I've got the receipts, and by the end of this episode, you will understand exactly what has just happened to the Church of England and why nobody will talk about this in an unfiltered way within the mainstream media. Okay, let's be precise about what has changed, because precision matters here. The Sovereign Grant Report is the royal household's annual financial and operational document. It is not tabloid gossip, it's not a leak, it is the official palace description of what the monarch does and what his role is. Last year's report described the king under his head of nation duties as head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. The new report, published late last week, reads, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. Same document, different language. The constitutional title, Defender of the Faith, a title held by every English and British monarch since Henry VIII, confirmed by Parliament in 1546, has been removed from the palace's own description of the king's role. Now, I've been very, very clear on this channel. For me, supporting the monarchy, I support it at this point because I want to protect the country and I want it to obviously remain constitutionally Christian. But at this point, it is impossible to support a monarchy that cannot do the bare minimum. This is not a lot we are asking for, but yet again, King Charles, the weakest king in history, has disappointed us. Just when you think you can't be more disappointed, he does it. But it's worth noting this is not the first time they've changed wording, because in 2022, the Sovereign Grant Report was quietly edited to remove specific duties the monarch must fulfil. Events previously considered constitutional requirements. The palace has a habit of using this document to reshape the monarchy's obligations without announcement, without debate, and without Parliament. And let's not forget, the news has come out now. Buckingham Palace will never be lived in again. So we have to now ask ourselves the question, are we looking at the end of the monarchy? Will the Church of England be gone? Is there a future for the monarchy? Because if he cannot put Christianity front and centre, then what he is doing is he is over-amplifying an ideology that many people feel does not want to assimilate and does not want to integrate as a political ideology. And critically, don't forget, before his coronation, there was a significant public debate about whether Charles would change Defender of the Faith to Defender of Faiths, the plural form encompassing all religions. He chose at the coronation to keep the traditional wording. He kept his oath publicly in Westminster Abbey. What changed? Not the legal title, but the palace's own operational definition of what that title means in practice. And that is a very different kind of move. I can tell you exactly why they did it this way. They buried it, they released it and hoped that people wouldn't notice. What they wanted was for this news to go under the radar. And then the minute the Telegraph picked it up, you now see stories coming out. Meghan Markle isn't coming to the UK. Will she, won't she? This is all done to distract you so you don't pay attention. Blink and you miss it. Thank goodness you can come to independent media, myself, and there are many other people that you can watch, because the mainstream media are not going to talk and discuss the gravitas of what the palace and the king have done. They have purposefully hidden this news, hoping you don't notice. Now, his oath still remains, but what they have done is they've tweaked some wording which has no legal obligations to fit his globalist agenda of a one world government, multiculturalism. So it literally is now a crime in the UK to be a Christian that doesn't want to live in a multi-faith nation, and our king, the one man that we look to look after and preserve our culture and our Christianity, he has sold us out time and time again. And I have long said King Charles is the Muslim king. Bishop Kai has been warning for years that King Charles is failing. So let's go through, okay? Let's just have a look at this year. These are, King Charles and the palace might say, his highlights. I would say they are his lowlights. February 2026. The royal family's official social media posts a formal Ramadan message to Muslims across the UK and Commonwealth, wishing all Muslims in the UK, the Commonwealth and around the world a blessed and peaceful Ramadan. March 2026. The Nigerian president, a Muslim, visits Windsor Castle on a state visit during Ramadan. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, Windsor Castle opens its doors so Muslims can break their Ramadan fast. The Islamic call to prayer echoes through St George's Hall. At the state banquet, King Charles closes his speech with the words Eid Mubarak. April 2026. Buckingham Palace confirms King Charles will issue no Easter message this year. No message for the holiest day of the Christian calendar, despite the fact he issued one in 2025. The palace, well, their defence, an Easter message is not a fixed tradition. Right, but neither's a Ramadan one. So this is where we are now with King Charles. It's not even the bare minimum. It's like when you get to the end of a job and you can't even be bothered to do that work and you're scraping the barrel. They're like, you're just turning up and doing nothing. This is where we are with the king. But he's actually, I would argue, not even turning up. He's at the point where he's not even pretending. And also, by the way, in April 2026, when his Easter message did appear, get ready, it described Christ's love as a deep human instinct echoed in Islam and other traditions. So he found a way to get Islam in again because he is incapable of defending the faith. And then we see June 2026, the Sovereign Grant report quietly dropping, and he is now no longer defender of the faith. This is not a pattern of omissions and accidents. This is the globalist agenda, and I don't like it. I'd love to hear, insiders, what you think about this. I feel incredibly strongly about it. I do not think the king should be patron of the Islamic Centre. I do not think he should be giving Ramadan messages. He can absolutely welcome people from other religions, but you are defender of the faith, Chucky. That is your job. I do not think the call to prayer should be in Windsor Castle. Just like, may I add, if I went to Dubai and the King of Dubai was having Christian call to prayers in mosques, well, I would think that's completely bonkers. So this man cares not for you and not for me. He cares not for our children's future. He is the Muslim king. So let's go into, before we hear from Bishop Kai, what his coronation oath was. Because this matters. Because he swore before God and he swore before the nation. And he said he would maintain and preserve the settlement of the Church of England and the doctrine, worship, discipline and government thereof, as by law established. It is not to be violated. It is not to be broken. It means the oath is not subject to reinterpretation. This is not make up your own job description, Charles. This is an oath you took in front of the public, in front of the world. Insiders, let's speak to Bishop Kai and get his take on this groundbreaking news that should be front page of every newspaper, but is barely making a small news piece. Bishop Kai, I need to get your thoughts on this development that was hidden within the sovereign grant information that was released. And then we saw it was neatly tucked into the Telegraph. And only after that came out have other media outlets picked it up. I'm shocked, I'm angry, I'm sad. How do you feel?
This is a dark day for the church in the United Kingdom. The fact that our sovereign and supreme governor of the Church of England has elected to push forward with his multi-faith agenda. It is really, for all intents and purposes, a kind of semi-answer to my letter, reminding him of his constitutional duties, which is basically an up yours, I'm doing what I want to do. and that's how I interpret what we've learned today. But it's really a slap in the face to every faithful Christian in the United Kingdom that is looking to their sovereign as Supreme Governor of the Church of England to come in defense of the Christian faith. And let's not neglect to take into consideration what this is. This is, again, a push from a leftist leaning liberal, well, actually more social communist style government that is once again trying to rewrite the narrative. Admittedly, they're rewriting it in a way that favors the king's ideological views, but to push Christianity out of the heart of this nation. And it leads to one place and one place only, and that is Britain becoming an Islamic state.
I think if we look at what's happening, we have Sharia law or Sharia courts. They are all around the country, and we are being served halal meat, and it's not labeled. The king has pushed the Islamic ideology since he was 27 years old. He's called for more Muslim teachers. He's accepted money from the Bin Laden family. Now, granted, yes, that they are not bad people, the wider family. But we have seen time and time again him amplify and over amplify the Islamic ideology. Do you think the king is putting our children's future at risk? Let me start by telling you, I do.
I think the king and the government in unison are not only putting our children's future at risk, I believe they're putting our immediate future at risk, yours and mine, and people like you and I across the country, because we are seeing the breaking down and the softening of language and expression around constitutional functions of the head of state and the head of the Church of England that are leading to a moral vacuum that is being filled by radicalized Islam. And the more people are bullied and browbeaten into talking about it, the quicker the onset of that becomes. I'm very mindful of the fact that there should be no other law in the United Kingdom save British common law. Full stop. Sharia law has no place in our society. There are no other religious bodies that have their own courts. The Church of England is bound by canon law. The Church of Wales is bound by canon law. We don't have canon courts as a result of that are actively operating in direct opposition to the government's legislated laws and the law of this land. You don't see that from the Jewish community or the Sikh community, the Buddhist community, Hindu community. It is only the Islamic community, and it is completely unacceptable. And I know that there are Christians all over the country that find my views on this completely unpalatable because they're so soaked in their own Kool-Aid of wokeness and liberalism that they cannot see the wood for the trees of what is really happening. But Islam is a political, religious ideology with domination at its heart. And saying that puts me under active fatwas with multiple threats to my life. But the reality of it is this nation of ours that I now believe in many ways is being assisted by the king, by the palace, by the state, by the Church of England, is facing a battle for the very soul of this nation. And unless God-fearing Christian men and women that believe in God and believe in this nation and believe in its Christian heritage and its Christian form and function, because our laws, our democracy, our institutions were all built upon biblical principles, unless those people get angry enough to say enough is enough. And I'm very mindful that I probably face jail time for saying some of the things that I say. Unless we get so fed up to say enough is enough, and we're not going to sit back and take this anymore. We will watch the state legislate Christianity out of our lives, out of the state, out of existence in this country. And when you create a moral vacuum of that magnitude, it never, ever stays empty. We have seen radicalized socialism, radicalized communism trying to fill it, and now we have radicalized Islam trying to fill that vacuum. And I'm sorry to say, whether people like me saying it or not, when it comes to our sovereign, I fully understand his obsession or his fascination with the mysticism of Islam, with its architecture, its crafts, its numerology. But to our sovereign Lord, your Majesty, you cannot divorce that from the radicalized fundamentalism that is contained within the same text. And it is completely unacceptable by our sovereign, by the royal family, or by this government and the church to even attempt to do so.
He's failed. He's failed in so many ways, but this to me is the most chilling way because something I felt protected us in the UK was the Christian constitution. And with this development, this obviously doesn't change the oath he took. But what it does do is it's a PR move, isn't it? To allow him to do more for other faiths. But if we go back, Easter, we got no Easter message, yet he'd hosted the ITFA in Windsor Castle. He'd released an Eid message. He'd managed to weave Islam into, anything that he does for Christianity as well. He's lied under oath.
I would say it's more of a betrayal of his oath than an actual fabrication, like we would hold in a court of law. He swore to the oath before holy altar and before God, and has, in many aspects, now betrayed that. But you're right that it's a PR stunt, and let's address also who's behind that, because this comes out in the Sovereign Grant Report. That's something that doesn't need the palace's approval because it's prepared by one of the most senior members of staff at the palace. The three trustees of the Sovereign Grant are the ones that are redefining what we're talking about now. They're the ones that have put this redefinition of the king's job description, so to speak, into the public domain. Well, who are the trustees of the Sovereign Grant? Well, there's the outgoing Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who is the Islamo-loving, sympathetic buffoon that he is. There's our completely incompetent Rachel from Accounts, Reeves, the Chancellor. And then there's James Chalmers, the keeper of the royal privy purse and treasurer to the king. These are the three people responsible for this. They tried to redefine it last year, back when our late sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, was, declining in health and ascending in age. The trustees at the time redefined her job description so that Prince Charles could take on a lot more of her responsibilities. But you look at who they are, what their responsibility is within society. Look at the Prime Minister. I know he's on his way out, but who has he favored since he came to power as Prime Minister? And understand that, yes, this redefinition might feed into the king's ideologies and his fascinations, but it is also a very, very dirty move by the state to try and redefine the role of monarchy in our society because of the agenda that they're trying to push, without trying to go through the correct channels of constitutional change, because they know full well if they tried to take this up at a constitutional level, they would never get it through. The one thing that I read in the Telegraph is where they talked about that King Charles decided to take the oath as defender of the faith, not defender of faiths. That isn't true. It wasn't the king's decision to do it. The one and only thing that I will give the former Archbishop Justin Welby credit for was the fact that he refused to let the king change the coronation oath, so that he had to take it as defender of the faith. That is why he is constitutionally still the defender of the faith. And listen, Lauren, if Our Majesty wants to throw that aside, that's entirely up to him. Because to me, the Church of England, in many ways, has thrown aside their responsibility as being defender of the faith. There are enough of us in the Patriot pastors. There are enough clergy emerging across the country now who are sick to their back teeth of what they're seeing. We will happily take on the responsibility of being the defenders of the faith. But by crikey, will we stick to scripture, and will we stick to the truth of God's word and the doctrine of the church? Because this woke agenda and this liberals nonsense they're trying to push, it doesn't wash with us.
I am still so lost for words that King Charles has managed to sell us all out so openly and so brazenly. How do you think life, if it continues like it's going under King Charles, who is not defending the faith, and we have a government who are prioritizing illegal migrants and Islam as well? What do you think 5 years time? What do you think life looks like? And I say that as I'm about to go and film in areas where I have been told, do not go and film in these areas. They are dangerous. And when I asked why they're dangerous, they are apparently Islamic areas now, and white non-Muslims are not welcome. And these areas, there are many of them around the UK.
I will go with the predictions being bandied about by some of the former leading military officers that are now saying what I said during my Liam Tufts interview. Civil war is not foreseeable. It is now inevitable in the United Kingdom. Where do I see us in 5 years? A country that is either on the tail end of a civil war or is still engaged in it. And I'll tell you from my very heart, I am a man that loves my God and I love my country. And I've been called everything under the sun for those two facts. But I truly fear for the fate and the destiny of this nation that I love with everything in me. I truly, truly do. I cannot see any other way that this ends well unless there is a mass rejection of an ideology that is trying to replace every aspect of our life.
Insiders, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you okay with it? Are you furious? Are you feeling let down? Are you not bothered? I cannot stress enough how upsetting I find this. I feel that this has real world implications for my daughter, for, well, daughters. One of them's 4 and she's going to school in September. And, you know, I feel like it's just going to be a fight on my hands to get Christianity taught to her at school, or the school food will be halal. It's just everywhere. But the mainstream media never talk about this. This is a very serious breach of King Charles's oath. For me, I am incandescent with rage due to the fact that the palace have so much arrogance. The king has so much arrogance and disrespect for the Christian faith and for the people that they think they can just slip it in, being sly, think they're being smart. I think I'm as annoyed at that as the fact they've changed the wording. Please let me know below what you think. I love reading all of your comments, even if we always don't agree, insiders. I love hearing other people's take. So please let me know below what your take is on this. And if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much.